the web of life.
Let me try from the first to indicate the point that we're aiming at. The point is this, that human consciousness is at the same time as being a form of awareness and sensitivity and understanding, it's also a form of ignorance.
Do you have a delineation between the meanings behind a relationship, behind love, and behind romance?
Do I feel, is there a difference? Or
Yeah, what would those differences be? Or are they all part of one system?
Love in a relationship or in a friendship?
Love, romance, relationship.
I believe that love can be more than just saying, I love you to a person and now we're going to get married. It gets, or that person loves me or I love them. That means we're in a relationship. We're now boyfriend and girlfriend. I think that's the context is misused in that sense. When, you had asked me a few weeks ago, like, what do I think this world needs? And my response was love. There needs to be more love. And that trickles down to like kindness and all the other wonderful things. But love for yourself first of all, and that comes from within, and then spreading and sharing that love that we can share. I think the word connection comes for me when it comes to like having, in a relationship, if it's a partnership situation. Yeah, there's that level of romance and love, and it can. I think those two they can coexist for sure. And I think that, but then I do think love and romance within a relationship or in a partnership can evolve and change will change and evolve over time. And you can still love a person and not be in a relationship with them, because that love is maybe not being reciprocated, or it's toxic, or it's not the type of love that you want, that you need at the time. So I think that's the hardest part, is some friends are going through that, like, well, I really love this person. I was like, well, you can still love them, but it doesn't mean they get to have your heart. They get to be with you until they're ready to be with you. Do you think they coexist, or?
I would agree with you. It's all about love, sentiment, right? It's almost a cliche, but when you get down to the simplest things, like that's always the root. But as it relates to relationships and kind of the conversation we've been having this morning, I think it's an important distinction to make because it removes certain expectations. I've been contemplating unconditional love.
Yeah.
Inherent in the meaning of that is there's no one person that you love more than anybody else. If you really examine what unconditional love means, is all encompassing. And that's why these like subcategories we have in our daily lives of romance and of relationships, maybe the rules are different there. Relationships are a long-term endeavor. These are people who we're doing life with. There's a journey involved with that. Romance is this elusive thing that we only get so often. It's either there, you're experiencing it, or you're not.
I do like that perspective, the unconditional love, where you do share it at a balanced level for everyone. But then there's this, as you said, the relationships that you're doing life together. I love that. It's like Is that different then? Is that the romance part of the love?
Romance to me is almost like transitory. You're in this spell, right? And you're kind of interacting within that alongside somebody else. Love to me is that connection. And I'll leave it as general as that. A relationship to me is a devotion. Yeah.
To another?
To that person. But there are agreements involved, right? So it's a devotion to that person already under the assumption that you are devoted to the self and being the best self for that person. And together those agreements can put you in a direction that aligns with your true self and that person's true self. If you get all three together, that is, the holy matrimony, I guess, as they say. But yeah, I don't think there's a way to do any of them. But what do I know?
You know more than you think. No, that's awesome. I love that. No, you come at a different perspective in the sense of you're not married and you've had relationships and friendships and you're exploring. And I don't, again, like you, I love your, can we go back to this motto of like, no, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just what works, what makes sense for you, especially now. And I think when women think about romance, what comes to mind is they want to be perhaps swept off their feet. And, so romance can be wonderful as long as you're doing it with the right person and for the right reasons. Not because this man can do all these things or want to do all these things, but do you want those things as well? Do you want to be swept off your feet by this man? If I'm talking about from me with a man, do I want that stuff will eventually, I don't know, dissolve or dissipate so then if that's not there, it has to be the core connection. It has to be, for me, that's the link is with love and romance. But I think romance can evolve as the love grows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, human beings are enduring, right? We keep changing. The relationship needs to keep changing, and it's difficult. But that devotion can help someone fall in love over and over and over again. It's not an easy thing. I've never been in a long-term relationship, so I'm definitely not any kind of authority to tell people. But I've seen tumultuous relationships. I've grown up within them. I've endured them, the wrath of them. I haven't had that long-term base. It makes me wonder what do you think the expectations are that women have as they are looking at their current relationships or looking for a new relationship?
I would say from where I'm at being 48 and where I'm at in life, and I do feel like the women that I have friendships with, again, similar to just exactly what you said, is they're strong relationships or strong friendships. I've chosen them, they've chosen me. So I would say, if I was to speak on their behalfs, that what they're looking for now is not what they were looking for at 20, 22, 23. So who they are now, what they want now is they do want that. They want a deep soul connection. They do want to feel, if they're in this, just like it's a 1-to-1 ratio relationship, because you're right, there's so many different types of relationships out there that no judgment for. I think everyone they have to do what they want to do.
It's infinite.
Totally.
Yeah.
There are so many opportunities for people to love the way they want to love and be loved. But yeah, I would say these friends of mine would say connection is massive, and with that connection is feeling that level of intimacy, of connecting on levels of intellectual connection. That's number one, I would say, and feeling that level of understanding one another. And if you're not understanding 100%, then there's curiosity around that, of what that means for you and what that looks like for you. Because when you are with a partner and you're feeling seen and heard and understood at some level, that's true intimacy from my perspective. That's true connection. That's respect of wanting to know who this person is. And that goes back to what you just said, and I love that, is the self, like knowing who the self is. And then with that confidence and that security, then you can do that with your partner. My partner, my partner's needs. This is their essentials. And I do want to fulfill them. I'm whole on my own, but I do want to fulfill that in the other person, because that is the highest level of love. That's what women, I would say from my perspective at this time of life, this is what they really want. And you have your other values that you really truly believe in, that your core values, and that alignment as well is pretty important. When someone's like, someone I was just talking to on the rooftop earlier, like that level of, that he's just said when he meets a girl, he loves he loves self-confidence in a girl, that they have security within themselves. He's like, and I said, right, so knowledge is sexy. He's like, knowledge is sexy. He's closer to your age than my age, but and I loved hearing that from him, that's how he's dating an older woman right now. He was telling me about her. So he'll listen to this podcast one day. So I just thought that was information where I was like, no, knowledge is sexy. Mm-hmm. Intellect is sexy. And so the girls that I would speak on their behalf would say the same thing. It's that internal connection. But yeah, I think that's the highest form of love, when you're whole on your own, you know who you are, and then meeting a person that is like, I want to know what your inner soul is, and I want to complement that. And enhance that.
You can't fall in love with a copy of everybody else. You have to be incredibly vulnerable. And people talk about unconditional love, like you have to love the flaws, but also the brilliance behind somebody. It's almost as if you're able to see through their eyes exactly the way they see the world and fall in love with that. Forgive me for getting esoteric, but then there's also like how someone just being around them connects with you and matches with the energies that you have and that you carry. I actually don't believe that there's such a thing as somebody completes you, right? Like, I think we are whole. I think when you read about masculinity and femininity, these are parts of our archetypes that make us whole, right? Masculine and feminine doesn't mean man and woman. It means these are parts of the psyche that help us understand the complete picture of what's going on between our conscious and our, like, what we think and what we feel. But that being said, I do think there's that microcosm that is us, and the macrocosm that is how our relationships and the energies of those people match what our wholeness looks like. I don't know. I'm at the division point where it's not even worth talking about. Honestly, I don't really give a shit. Like, I really don't give a shit what seems to be. I really don't.
Well, your focus is not that right now. Your focus is a relationship with you. I mean, I'm just putting it out there, as in, like, in a good way, in a way that you're...
Yeah. Oh, well, that's my personal circumstance is a whole different story. I don't have... People ask me, like, why don't you have a girlfriend? My dad is dying for me to have a girlfriend.
Why?
I don't... that's for each of them. I think they don't want me to be a lonely guy. And my response is always, I'm not a lonely guy.
Not at all.
And I wouldn't be a good partner right now. I will engage in love, and I will engage in romance, but I am not a good partner. I am not a good relationship right now. Because I can't devote myself right now. I'm devoted to something else, where I'm on a journey that I need to see through for me, but it's not that I shy away from it. It's that simple.
It is actually that simple. No, you're continuing to explore yourself and figure out, and that because we can easily get distracted by, oh, that person likes me, that I like that person, doesn't really, I guess I could just compromise and hang out with her or him, and no.
That doesn't exist in my world.
No, it doesn't. I would never put you in that category or classify that. That's definitely, you know that you're worthy and your time is worthy, and her time as well. Like if it's in your situation, not that we talk about your situation, but in any relationship and friendship, it's worthy of your time and your energy. So it has to be that mutual exchange of energy in order to engage in that type of level of love and relationship and friendships. And you're not a lonely guy. And along the journey that you're self-discovering right now, she will come for you when she's ready, when you're ready. So why be in a situation where you don't want to be in it? That is enough. Then you're taking away from opportunity from yourself, for yourself.
Yes, I'm on this path now, whether it's business or personal, spiritual, and like not in a place right now. But over the years, I would date either long distance, or I would date women who just weren't in a place of life where they would be able to fully commit to either. And what it was is this like subconscious fear of oppression. It's horrified by being put in a box. And that's something that I had to internalize and realize and overcome in order to see the world with like fresh eyes. So that is true. Like that in my past, like I did avoid the vulnerability of a relationship because fuck you, you're not going to oppress me and tell me what I can and can't do. When no one ever tried to do that. Like not one person, but it was just this thing about me, right? It wasn't just romance and relationships. It was everywhere in my life. It's like I'm not coloring the lines. I'm doing my thing, right? So with that as context, I get why people want me to engage in relationships. But now it's like, look, I understand that. I overcame that fear of oppression. I recognize that it's just not for me right now.
That is the most important thing, is that you know what you want for yourself right now. I think people associate if you're in a relationship, then you're not lonely, when really you could be in a relationship and be as lonely as.
That's a great point.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And some of these people I talk to, women and especially, maybe they're in marriages that they don't really actually want to be in them, but they're so afraid to be alone. And I'm like, well, aren't you lonely anyway? You're with this, you're in this relationship with this person that you actually don't really want to be in. And you're telling me that you don't want to leave the marriage or the relationship because you don't want to be alone, but you're already fucking alone. You're probably more alone than you realize, because this person that's in your life, that you don't want to be in your life, is blocking you from meeting somebody that should be in your life, that wants to be in your life. But they can't come into your life until you clear out the cobwebs, clear out the old. And I'm not saying, like, obviously you're in a marriage and you can't just like, okay, I'm done with you, but more like explore that, look into that. And if that loneliness has nothing to do with that relationship, the loneliness is within you. It's not, that means you're not whole. You're not doing the work, you're not doing the healing. And that's, again, like, that's a whole nother realm of things. But if you are looking into yourself and you are feeling whole and are whole on your own, then you're not lonely. And it's okay, we have moments of feeling alone or loneliness, but being on your own is actually quite remarkable. And there is that sense of freedom. That's not oppression, that's like, but you have to get to that point within yourself to be comfortable with that. But I believe that you can be in a marriage and a relationship. If there's a physical being there, doesn't mean you're not lonely though.
Yeah. And again, it's like not even just marriage, it's any relationship. I've had huge friend groups where we would go out and I'd be like, I'm all alone. And this goes back to when we were talking about boundaries early on. You're talking about, this is not the environment for me, out of respect for myself. It's not even just respect for the self, it's like, since I know myself, I'm gonna take care of that person, that's self. Yeah. I won't even get into comfort zones. It's not about that. It's like, you know what you need.
Oh, I love this conversation about love. This is awesome.
Oh yeah, clearly it needed to come out.
Yeah, your own self-love and self-care.
Yeah, I mean, But I have this, I don't really know what everyone's relationship looks like with what we can call the higher self. I have a pretty interesting one, I would posit. But that inner self, right, when I developed a really strong relationship with it, and when it became more personified, and when I really started to nurture that inner self and trust it and not like give a shit what anybody thinks about me, right? That relationship I devote everything I accomplish in life to that. And that is a really powerful mechanism for me to remove my ego from anything I do. Like, I don't really pat myself on the back, I just like give gratitude. Yeah. And by doing that, people will tell you it's important to pat yourself on the back, but this gives you what you're looking for. It really does. Like, it gives you what you're looking for without being slowed down by any like over importance you might give yourself, right? It's like, I channeled, I connected with who I am, I behaved. That came through in the way I behaved in this fucking hologram world. And thank you, right? Like, that's it. And it is tangent, but it is.
I love that tangent.
Yeah.
You said what this is, and this, like, you were, gratitude, like, you meaning like this is this
Higher
experience
self.
Is higher self. Okay.
Higher self, the light. Yeah. I really still feel like it was a pretty moving moment when I found that light. One thing I didn't mention when I first had this, like, we'll call it an enlightening moment, what was immediately after that, as I mentioned, like, that's where that connection, like that actual communication with the higher self came to me, that deep intuition that I feel and can interact with. But I should mention when I met that, it felt like an entire ecstatic experience where a voice was waiting my whole life to open that portal, and it just said, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. And I just had tears coming down my face. And I'd never felt so much love, right? And that's probably why I have this somatic experience when I connect and ask it questions, my higher self questions, because I know it is this place of love. And I can use that feeling and that experience to navigate the world. And that's why it becomes a compass that I can trust more than absolutely anything. So
That's awesome.
The higher self.
The higher self.
Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. Can you take us to that moment where you did have that enlightening moment? Is there a specific moment? I mean, how old were you? Was this recent?
This is recent. I think there are a lot of things in our experiences as human beings that we shut off and don't necessarily look into. I don't want to give examples because that would put limitations on what people find for themselves. But I will say my example is like getting the chills, right? Getting the chills. That could be more of a communication than you know. So I would look into that and start using it as a tool and stop thinking it's happening to you and maybe interpret it in a different way. Maybe it's a communication, maybe it's something else. And this can get woo, and this can get, people can be skeptical in hearing something like that. But under my personal lens of human beings have powers, different things that come my way, I've been able to interpret, expand on, and then they become really powerful tools in my life that I can actually harness to have like a incredibly amplified perspective on things. So that's like all Gnostic. I don't know if that's like losing your mind or not, but it works. And if you want to use KPIs from the outer world, I mean, it has put me on a successful fucking path. So
what's a KPI?
Key performance indicator, like a metric.
Okay, your metric, right.
Yeah.
No, we both talk about channeling and information that comes for us. And the more you open yourself up to that channeling, which you not only have you been doing it, but you're doing it continuously. And our intuition is one of our faculties, our higher faculties in the mind, and it's so important to stay in touch with that intuition. And I definitely have moments where I'm really like, Ashley, what's your intuition saying? Asking myself the questions as well, and just saying, okay, today I would really need to be open. I will be more aware and open to what's coming for me, whether it's new numbers, people, opportunities, and opening myself up in that way. And it's still something I know I'm working on. And I love my friend Peg would say, she's like, oh, I got chills, but she calls them, instead of goosebumps, she calls them truth bumps. And my friend Peggy hopefully will listen to this podcast. I'll tell her, I mentioned her, that I love that. Your body is talking to you. Your intuition is talking to you when you have that, like that reaction. Your body has that reaction, that response. There's something there. To look into that. But that skill, that's like another trust thing. You're having trust within yourself to listen and ask questions.
And if you follow that, I guarantee you're not going to be surrounded by others who make you feel lonely.
And there you go.
I guarantee it. Are most of your connections now, because you went through this transition, you came back from Hong Kong, I would imagine that you have this head on your shoulders within the past year and a half. So has it been easy? Has it been natural? Like, have most of your relationships been coming your way?
Yeah, and I everything you just said before the question was awesome. I agree with you. It's been a massive shift, and I know I've mentioned before in the past that one of the most important things for me is to have my tribe of people. And so when I was really going through my journey in Hong Kong, I would say when COVID kicked off, it really gave me time to just stop and do a lot of thinking, a lot of meditating, reading, and being open to different connections at that time, which made me realize, oh, you can actually have these deep philosophical discussions with people and connect, where I was like, and I know, similar to you, I had this information within me and I kept it hidden or inside, or didn't know what to do with it. So the more I was opening that realm of myself up to not only myself but other people, I was definitely attracting the friendships now that I felt like I've known these people for my entire life. And the more I made those connections, for me, they have been later in life. I would look back, there's not many people I speak to from a very long time ago. And that's probably that's an testament to me, not to them. As to, these are the relationships and the friendships I had then, and that's what worked then. But some of these girls and male friendships that I have now, you are kind of all going through the same journey in Hong Kong for sure. And then those people have moved to their various countries, and but then we are still very much connected, and keep in touch with one another and check in. And so here, when I arrived, I knew for me that was really important, and to find those people. So I think it came easier for me than I realized it was going to. I thought it was going to be a lot harder. But I wonder if it's because, maybe I'm giving too much credit, maybe because it's Maryland, and it's like there's people from all over the world that lived here.
Definitely not. That
live here. You would disagree? Yeah.
Continue. Okay. I don't want to interrupt you, but definitely not.
It's like, okay, it's people, they are open to traveling and the type of, the values that I have in different ways, of sense of like their sense of adventure and ethnic foods and, I don't know if that word's appropriate or not, but whatever. Just
racist.
Diversity. I can't.
That's horrible.
You can bleep it out. You never know, people get so offended these days. So just things that are diverse. People.
Don't say diverse.
Shut up. You're annoying. What the fuck am I supposed to say?
We're all the same.
We all are the same. We're all human beings. That said, so moving here, I put myself out there. I was resilient in the sense of, I'm just going to ask this person if they want to have a coffee, or but somebody I felt connected to, like, oh, I really like this person. They seem like Kate, when we had that good discussion with Kate, one of my shift girls. So we exchanged phone numbers, and I said, let's go get a coffee. And she obliged, and that was awesome. And she opened up my horizon. But because we had an instant connection, and she was somebody I knew I wanted to hang out with. If she wasn't somebody I wanted to hang out with, I would never have asked her for a coffee. Like, I knew within 5 seconds that she was my people.
I really have yet to receive any information that can convince me against the fact that the shift happens internally, and then the outer world responds to it.
Yeah.
Using light again as an analogy, right? Like a photon takes time to interact with anything substantial. And I think that the same goes, like, everything that happens in this outer world is a delayed reflection of what happens inside of us. And once you know exactly where you are and who you are, then the people who are attracted to you are people who are riding those same waves, right? Those same light waves. That's how we found each other. That's how a lot of my relationships are coming. This morning, I told you about how someone just literally knocked on this door right here and said, it's been years, right? And I just can tell you automatically that this guy is probably going to be part of my business. And it's really, it's interesting, right? The magic starts to happen really when the more you lock in internally to who you are and what you want to be doing and what you're focusing on. Otherwise it's too confusing. And then you start to look at principles for, this is how women my age behave, and this is what they're looking for, so I'm going to adapt myself to match that. You're definitely not going to find your relationship, and they're not going to fall in love with you because you're not being that authentic person. So
that is not what I subscribe to at all.
Yeah.
Because this journey of knowing who I am and what I want from a friendship or relationship is so profound, and it's been developing, I would say, the last 4 or 5 years, and certain relationships and friendships serve you when they do, but at this point in my life, I'm very confident in knowing what kind of friendship I want to be in, and I've definitely attracted those people, to your point. So yes, I could come up with the other, circumstances of, I do want to give Marilyn a little bit of credit, but I just, perhaps even if no matter where I was, I know I would find those connections.
If you want to give Marilyn credit, I mean, it's something within you also brought you here.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, assign credit to that higher self, to that voice.
Oh, that's where it all stems from. Is definitely that higher self. And some of the friendships I have, we gravitated towards one another. We found one another with that pull and that, and even at different stages of our lives, but we just knew there was this, not the commonality, but like the connection, the magnetism that you and I have from the beginning. And it makes sense that, your mom has it as well, and which I love. So I'm so thankful and grateful for these type of connections that I've made while being here in the last year and a half. Those have been like this, when you said enlightened earlier, in the sun, the ray of sunshine, or whatever you want to call it, sun rays and light rays, it's like that word halo, that Beyonce song. She sings about that. Like, I couldn't imagine, basically she's saying, like, I can't imagine life without this halo in my life.
I'm going to be blasting that song later.
It's such a good fucking song.
It's so good.
I love it. It's on my mix. A friend of mine sent it to me probably like 3.5 or so years ago, and it's like the top of my list of songs. When I need to hear it, just blast it, especially driving or working out or running. That's one of my favorites. But that's what that visual came to me when you were saying that. Tell me later when you blast it. I want to know.
Oh, you'll hear it.
I'll feel that vibe, that energy.
I've been
transmuting.
I've been going back to some throwbacks recently.
Oh yeah?
I've been listening to a little bit of Rihanna, a little bit of Justin Timberlake, because why not, right? Sometimes you just got to go back. And it reminds me, my sister and I, we always laugh because when I was a little kid, my favorite song was Yeah by Usher. And we have this hilarious back and forth about how one day I was telling her, like, Yeah by Usher used to give me the chills.
Did I ever, if my sister listens to this, she will burst out laughing. It's one of my top favorite songs. Usher's singing in the Super Bowl, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we might have had this conversation. I had like a deja vu moment. I don't know, maybe we haven't. One of my top favorite musicians is Usher, and I love him, and I love that song, and it's on that same mix up with Halo.
Yeah.
I kid you not.
It's a banger.
It's a banger.
I was sub 10 saying, like repeating after Lil Jon saying, make that little booty go smack. Not knowing what the fuck I was talking about.
Oh my god.
But I just knew I agreed.
I'm gonna ask your sister about that.
Yeah, you should.
Is that on video? It doesn't even, like, I love, when you listen to songs now or think of those moments of like, ooh, gosh, I didn't even think about the song being, that's the meaning behind it as a kid. And I love that. That's so not jaded. I love that. Like, that's so innocent.
Yeah.
That's what we're missing these days. Kids just need to have the life of innocence and be jaded. Not be jaded, actually, that's what I meant to say. And to just not even know what the meaning of things are. Just be in the moment of whatever it feels like. Yeah, that's a cute visual of you.
I think you should incorporate
Mm-hmm.
for your wisdom coaching for kids, what you should seriously consider is having them listen to Lil Jon.
Nothing wrong with little Justin Timberlake. I think we were even playing a little Justin Bieber last night too, the younger days, Bieber days.
Mm-hmm.
So why not? And are you kidding me? I love One Direction. I'm not gonna be shy about that.
1D.
I love 1D. Get some. I mean, they're such a fun band. But back then, I mean, I don't know what they're doing now, but what a fun band they were. Great music.
Yeah, it's
All has a place.
It does. I've been flirting with the idea that it's music, since you have such an emotional and feeling connection to it, that it can be a tool for programming the way you operate in your day-to-day. So I love moody music. I love blues. I love jazz. I love certain types of music, but I've been avoiding it recently. And it's another one. It's another one of those things that I'm conflicted about, because I love music, but I also recognize it puts me in these certain states. Like, I have a playlist that's maybe 1,000 songs long, and it's just called COVID-19. It has pretty much every song that I love, but I can recognize darker moments of my life in that music, which is beautiful, but perhaps not a good influence on me in that stage of life. So now, I mean, being business mode a little bit, it's a lot of Kanye West, right? It's a lot of
it's more badass.
It's a lot of stuff like that,
right.
Because it is music that will program you to be positive and to just take the world head on. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting, but I don't think there's anything wrong with Little Usher. Lil Jon, Beyonce, and Jay-Z. But these are people who play with those principles too, right? Like,
yes,
they really do. They're really cognizant of it. And if you listen to them talk and you really listen to what they're saying, they're telling you that they are giving you codes, right? They are giving you codes that will lift you up. So it's an interesting.
There are definitely certain genres of music or certain songs I listen to. For sure, they bring a flood of memories, and depending on where I'm at in my mind, I will just say I don't have the capacity. I mean, I have the capacity to go there right now, but I don't want to because of the emotions it brings up. So I'll just fast forward it and knowing I'll come back around. And there was a certain song that I would send to a lot of girlfriends, and for the last probably 6 months or so, it's really hard for me to listen to it. It reminds me of certain things, certain people. And more recently, I don't remember if somebody sent it back to me. Can't remember, but they did. Somebody sent it back to me recently. I had sent it to her. She sent it back to me. And I was like, I think I'm ready to listen to this again. Mm. So I hear you on that note, because it does come with the person that sent it, or the moment that it was sent, or whatever was happening in your life. There's so much resonance there.
Can I read you something?
Yes, always. Especially if it sparks something in you. I'm going to find my playlist later and show you Usher. My sister will laugh.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Shoot.
June 20th, 2022. Entry. Send your friends songs. Nothing beats a sing-along. Our rehearsals that led to that performance were really just doses we took to feel a particular way during a particular time. We get to share all those experiences in that moment. There's comfort in the fact that we were not alone in those conditions. Send songs, but do not prescribe them. Mm-hmm. There's intimacy in listening to someone's song. Also in sharing your own rhythms and lyrics. Don't make the penne for the Italian. Present your flavor preferences and the history that played them. I never know how the fuck I'm responsible for any of my paintings. In all honesty, I spatter layers on a canvas aimlessly until I see something I like. I've never used the same colors or tools, or listened to the same music, or been under the same influences and circumstances when making my mark. They're all moments of mine conveyed in a tangible form. We're each some sort of antenna that receives forms and transmits them back into this world. We don't know where it, in quotes, all came from. I speculate there's something we don't understand about osmosis. We never really get to decide all the ingredients in our meals, but when it's served and the black pepper is cracking, we always get to say when. Send songs and cook your meals. Palates can share favorites and crave new colors. The world begs to see what your finished product looks like. Saying when belongs to you.
Wow. That you wrote over a year ago.
You know, you send people reflections sometimes.
Yeah.
Sending a song is also something that can stimulate something within somebody. It's an interesting thought.
And it's definitely an intimate thing to share, reflections and a song. Mm-hmm. Generally, maybe it's something you're feeling in that moment, and you're like, and as you said, like we said, I'm not trying to prescribe anything. Though this is a song that that may resonate, that may feel connection, or we have such a strong relationship and friendship. I feel like I can send this to you, and you can take it for what it is. Mm-hmm. But music is so powerful, and jazz is one of my favorite types of music to listen to, especially when you're live in New York City and hanging out listening to it.
What do you think it is about jazz?
I just find it to be like sultry and sexy, and when they improv, they're just feeling it. It's like they know they're there in a collab. If they are playing as a band.
No, I like jazz for the same reason, right? You can go see the same artist and the same band every single night, play the same songs, but it's going to be different every single time. And when my favorite jazz to see is when the artists have never performed together, because what they do, you'll hear it, like they'll begin with some sort of like melody where they all come together, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like kind of introducing themselves, and then they go into this solo where they really introduce themselves. They're like, this is my language, this is what I really talk about, this is where my musical abilities came from, and this is where it is now, and they kind of flex it, and then you'll hear them each like do their turn. And then after that, the song after everyone does their introduction is like the most magical thing in the world. And I'm curious when it comes to, you know, like what we're doing, our art form that we're working on here is like getting into flow state, right? But music is another one of those, right? Where we're tapping in again to that alternative space and channeling it into this material world, right? And it's because language isn't the perfect tool to describe certain things that we experience as human beings. So poetry and, you know, pictures and music, in many ways, it's more real than anything else because it helps you tap into certain frequencies that there aren't good words for. The limits of my language mean the limits of my world. Right.
Is that your quote?
No, that's Ludwig Wittgenstein. Do you have a favorite song?
Yeah, definitely. You mean like just one, if I had to choose one?
Yeah, right now.
My favorite song is, I would say ultimately, is With or Without You by U2. With or Without You by U2.
What are the lyrics of the chorus?
That I can't live with or without you. If it's not a song you haven't heard yet, or maybe you haven't, you're not sure, I'll have to play it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Though the other favorite song I would have is a Guns N' Roses song.
Which one? You just obviously piqued my interest.
I love Guns N' Roses. So those are like my two top. Like when someone asks my favorite song, I'll say GNR or U2. The GNR song is usually the now I'm blanking on it.
It's okay.
Oh my goodness! Wait, no. Paradise City
Mm-hmm.
is one, or the other. What's the other one? The It'll Come to Me. Yeah, Paradise City, and there's one other one. So yeah, I'm a big hair band girl. Like I love, and I talking about solos. I love guitar solo. I feel like it's super hot and sexy. And a piano, like John Legend playing the piano is just amazing. You know, John Legend. But I love, the whole guitar going off piece. And
You know, sometimes I almost feel like melancholy because music has taken such an evolution. But if you like that kind of rock and roll and a really good guitar solo, there's a band with a couple kids that are actually younger than me. And people say they sound like Led Zeppelin.
Oh, really?
They're called Greta Van Fleet. Let me just say, they are absolute rock stars. I forgot the name of the song, but it's a set in Toronto, and their guitarist does a solo which is like 4 fucking minutes long. You've never seen anything like it. Plays behind his head, like he looks like he's possessed. He's horizontal, and like the music's coming out of him. And that's the perfect example of the alternative space, right? Mm-hmm. There's just this magic, and he has just become a full conduit for that because he had the guitar skills in order for that to come out. And I will make the bold statement that it is the best guitar solo ever performed, ever.
I can't wait to watch that.
And I'm a huge Stevie Ray, B.B. King. Like, I love them. I will never diss the classics, and I'm not dissing the classics by saying that. Like, it is the most powerful solo I've ever seen.
Send that to me, because I'm definitely into that. I mean, Slash could do no wrong, right? I mean, he probably doesn't even compare to Slash, but no, I think that it's such a gift to have this musical talent, and this person that you're talking about, he's been able to channel that, and he's probably studies these people or knows these people. And maybe he's been reincarnated by a musician. That's cool. I can't wait to watch it. Mm. Do you have a favorite song?
No, but I do use them as doses, right? So like it depends on for what. You know, if I want to think about my mom, there are certain artists. like Nora Jones, that I will definitely play. If I want to think about my dad, Tracy Chapman. If I want to think about my sister, there are like the throwbacks that have to do with our adolescence. With my brother, when I was a kid, or when I was in like high school, I used to drive him to school in the morning. So some of our most cherished moments are in this little Chevy Cavalier where we had a CD player, and that's the only music we could really listen to. I had 3 albums in there, right? One was Forest Hills Drive by J. Cole. The other was one of the Caged Elephant albums. And then the last was Exodus by Bob Marley. And I think we've like joked about this in the past, but those have become like such a pillar of our relationship. And it's really interesting to think about. In terms of like personal songs, I mean there are, but I don't know. Like I can't pick, right? It's like kids.
It's something, yeah. It's something when no matter how many times I hear With or Without You, it like gives me, just, I can feel it in my body. There's just something about that song.
Yeah. Look into the lyrics. You should see if there's
gotta be
something hidden in there. Yeah.
I'm sure there is. And now that you say that, I mean, I know what the words are, but yeah, it's basically you can't live with or without somebody. And it's definitely like one of those ballads you would listen to if you've gone through a breakup or something. But I never wanted to associate that with a breakup, so I avoided that song because I wanted to be and I've seen them like perform twice in concert, and that's even just even more powerful to listen to that and watch them.
And sometimes it's beyond the obvious, right? So it might not be like, it could be your relationship with your higher self. Like it could be a lot of different things. So I'd be curious if you do some digging. I'd be curious what comes up.
I'll dig into that for sure. And similar to your the jazz ensembles, like when they each play their own little piece, that they're getting into it. They're, as you said, like they're connecting to their language of the saxophone, the clarinet, or whatever they're playing, and then the trumpet. And then as they come together, it's like that's their flow state too, and they vibe off each other, and they just know they have that relationship within themselves. But maybe even if they don't know the people that are playing, but it's their own, I guess, flow state for themselves. It's pretty powerful.
Totally. I mean, what a good metaphor for life, right? There's like Nina Simone. I love Cinnamon by Nina Simone. I think it's the most exhilarating like piano entry of all time almost. And the thing about Nina Simone is she was a classical piano player when she was a kid, and then she learned jazz over time, right? And that's like something like a metaphor I use a lot, right? Like you learn the classics, and then you get jazz. You learn the rules, and then you can riff. And in the context of like how a jazz performer goes into a band and then creates the ensemble that way, the harmony that way, is a good metaphor for life, right? Like we come into the world, we learn the rules, we have to obey the rules, but then we realize we can break the rules and have our own way. And then once we realize we're rule breakers, we find other rule breakers, and we find a harmony within that, right? It's like it's a funny thing to think about.
I love that. Yep, exactly. That's awesome. That's brilliant. That should be like the context of the book that we're going to write eventually.
Yeah.
Or the book you should be writing. When I said that to you the other day, I'm like, keep fucking writing. The things that you write are pretty powerful. You got to keep going.
Thank you.
And people will listen to that, and if you allow people to listen to that, what you wrote, it will resonate with people.
I'm not afraid of it, putting that stuff out there at all. But yeah, I mean, I do like to write. I like, again, any form of expression. I don't think I'm necessarily good at it, but I do think if you do have like a creative inclination, you need to put it somewhere, or else it's going to build up and feel like the most discomfort ever. So I have like a wide range of places I channel it, but I don't think I have one like instrument that I devote consistency to, which is actually why, like, one of the reasons I'm super into the podcast idea, because this is also an art form, and this is like your essentially accountability to be consistent about it and get better at it, right? It's, you know, our early episodes aren't necessarily going to be the most palatable for everybody who listens, but we're going to work, and we're going to make this something that is a pleasant experience, right? So
And I said to Michelle the other day, first of all, you saw the comment she made. She's like, it makes her so happy to see, that we're in here doing this, because she knows how meaningful it is and how much I wanted to do this for myself. And I said to her, I was like, I'm obsessed with it. I don't even she's like, you know what, when you're obsessed with something, not a person necessarily, but a thing that you want to do, that's where you actually are most successful. That's define successful, whatever you want it to be. But successful means, even this is, for me, a success. It's doing something that I've always wanted to do in the capacity that feels right, that feels good. But yeah, no, I hear it's like, this is just the beginning of something. And what was the quote I even read today? It's you don't have to be great at something to get started, and then you become great at it. Have you heard that before?
I mean, no, but no. I agree. I'm sure something like it. Something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I know that's based off of something someone said, a particular quote, but that's basically the essence of it. Same. But she said, no, that's what success will bring you when you are obsessed with something. And I want to do the homework. I want to do the research. Even if we go off topic, it's like I just want to know what I always want to know what I'm talking about. That's the knowledge. That's the power for me.
Podcasting is also the number one, any art is actually the biggest win-win ever, because you're either expressing yourself, learning something about yourself, and nobody knows about it, or even if everybody knows about it and it's bad, you're still quote unquote successful. Right? So there's no losing in the game.
Agree. Yeah. There's no losing.
For what it's worth, even the way that you interact in the reflections you send, you're something of a writer yourself. So whether it's now or just in the future, I'd be very curious for you to just maybe recite some of that. And you also brought up you were an artist as a kid.
By the way, I do love writing, yes, and I do recite reflections, and I will read something next time. I'll have something.
Awesome.
I'll pick out something that resonates for sure, because that is my art form. One of my art forms is journaling and writing. And I mentioned, this is not really answering your question, but I think I told you I started writing more erotic short stories. So that's something I'm still cultivating and working on. Those are fun, and my girlfriends are ready for me to post those or somehow get them out there. I'm definitely under an alias. It won't be under my name. I've done art. It has been a creative outlet for me for a very long time, whether it's usually drawings. I'm pretty good at copying drawings of other people's stuff that I want to draw. I'd say my favorite type of expressing myself, which I haven't done in a long time, is photography. So, and I focus on photography as my photography minor in college.
Did you like to do landscapes or portraits or?
Mainly black and white of people, candid moments.
Cool. Generally
of my kids, of course, because that's who I was around a lot more. I really did a lot more of it in high school. When I was a new mom, but post college. I think it was still people, it was still moments of, one of my favorite ones was this little boy that I used to babysit or nanny for, and he was walking through a field, and the sun that was behind him, it was just he was glowing. And the photo itself, the quality is not great, but I remember that moment. So I'm captivated by catching people in a moment of complete candidness, and they don't even know their photo's being taken. So, and sometimes just even close up, very personable close up. But yeah, black and white, I would say, is my favorite.
Those are cool. Do you have a favorite photo that you've ever taken?
Yeah, I would have to look back at my black and white archives. I definitely have a portfolio of them where I look at that. I mean, besides that one of the little boy, I have close-ups each of the boys, and not separately, and I have them next to my bed, and I just they're small little faces, and they're chubby small little faces, and they're just so young, and I just whatever Shay was thinking in that one moment, I could just what was he, just pick his brain out, but I caught him on camera. And then one other one where Sebastian gives me this grin, he still has that grin, he's like standing behind bamboo leaves, and I, to this day, when I see them, but I love those. But I love the close-ups of the little faces. Those are the first two that come to mind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And those are not black and white; those are color. But there's so much meaning behind those for me, taking photos of them. There's something about that moment of, and also, I would take photos of, like, for instance, my rugby club and of the kids out there, and knowing that just sharing those photos with parents was really powerful for me, knowing I've caught that moment and then they get to keep that moment forever. Because you're looking at it through a lens, right? And generally I'll just wait for those moments of whatever comes to me and then snap away. But there is that level of connection of the camera being in that lens. And not necessarily wanting to be on the other side of the lens, just being behind the lens and taking the photo. And the beauty within that. And you also, is saying you paint, or have painted, or are painting.
When I was in Austin, I was painting, and kind of talked about it in what I just read, but what I realized is, like, if I can connect into something and get that out of me onto a canvas, it didn't matter what it was, people would appreciate it. So I thought that was just like an interesting, I thought that was interesting, right? Like, people look at a Basquiat painting, for example, and it looks like a 5-year-old drew it.
Mm-hmm.
But then there'll be waves of people who say, but his use of color was brilliant. There'll be people who say, but looking inside of his mind is brilliant. The way he thinks is brilliant. And I really think what he tapped into is just, like, being that transmission, right, of something soulful into the world. So I actually, like, am probably I would say I'm a good drawer. I wouldn't say I'm a good painter. I would say I paint, I do the process, right? And that process is just that, right? It's like just being a vessel for whatever needs to come onto the canvas. I also don't see color well, which makes painting interesting for me. But yeah, I mean, I've exercised pretty much everything. This is a whole story, but a project I did, I won't get into, but a project I did also incorporated photography, and that was new for me as well. That was pretty exhilarating, because I just, like, told myself I was a professional photographer, sold this whole story to somebody. That actually might be, of everything I've ever made, the project I'm most proud of. So, yeah, I mean, I like to just flirt with everything.
I love that. Actually,
Yeah.
when you said the word flirt earlier, just flirt with it.
Yeah.
See what comes about.
Yeah.
I agree with you. That's what we should do, and be okay. And you're telling your subconscious level of, like, I'm a professional photographer, and if I can convince my subconscious, I can convince her too.
So before we did the project, we sat down and I was like, look, like, we're gonna take this seriously, and you can tell no one. To get her into the spirit of the role I wanted her to play.
Be in the spirit.
Is the same thing we really do. It's like we have this moment where we want to lock in before we engage in the art form of the conversation.
Getting into the spirit of it is absolutely, talk about that in so many different levels, and people maybe shy away from that word spirit, but spirit is, is this your project?
Yeah.
With the girl?
Yeah.
Or it's on Instagram?
Yeah, I created like a virtual gallery, essentially.
One
for
at
the
a
one
time
project.
gallery. And what's tape?
It was actually all under a thesis for a brand that I was creating.
Mm-hmm.
So I incorporated stuff from, like, NFTs, the Bored Apes.
Mm-hmm.
I incorporated, like, you'll see the shirt has different values on it.
The one that she's wearing?
Yeah, I did homage to, like, Andy Warhol in there.
So this,
And then $120,000
mm-hmm.
at Art Basel one year, which is like an art festival.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They
So
came to Hong Kong.
Yeah, it is in Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
A comedian taped a banana to a wall, and it sold for $120,000. And so the essence of the brand was what assigns meaning, right? And so she's wearing all these shirts, and I was like, what a hilarious way to launch a brand that wants to talk about substance through the lens of materialism. So I was like, all right, I'm going to create a shirt that says $5, a shirt that says $30, a shirt that says $100, and they're all going to be priced accordingly, because it's the name that's telling you what is actually worthwhile,
Right.
how much it costs.
Did you come up with this whole idea?
Yeah.
That's such a great idea. So, like, did you just do it because you wanted to?
Yeah.
Not because... This is phenomenal. I love it. And wearing tape. And she's an awesome model.
She's legit.
She's legit. Okay.
You can dig into that one day.
Yeah.
She might have been one of the most important ones in my life.
What was the importance of her?
I mentioned a lot of relationships I went to in the past were kind of subconsciously chosen because I knew they wouldn't work out, right?
Yes.
Because I had a fear of repression. I actually learned this through this person who was in those photos. I met her on Halloween night. I was out with two buds, and it was one of those days when I didn't get to eat anything. And so I had a couple drinks, and I was just fucking plastered, right? And I remember one of my buds was like, yo, you gotta pull it together. This girl keeps looking at you. And I remember I went to the bartender, and the since it was Halloween, he was dressed as a doctor, and I was like, all right, I need a prescription. Give me 5 waters. And I remember just chugging it and like double fisting waters, because I was like, all right, I gotta go like talk to this girl.
Together. Yeah.
It was a fun night, like Halloween, whole thing. Then I gave her my phone after we hung out, and she put in her name, but she said, don't look me up. And I said, interesting, but I'll bite, right? Like I won't look you up. I won't do the whole thing. I'll just see where this goes.
She gave you her phone number with the name.
Next day she hits me up. She's like, let's hang out. We hung out, and we kept this like relationship going where we were fully incognito with each other, but she would start telling me these stories. Throughout the duration of this, a few things were standing out to me. One, I'm incredibly unattracted by people who talk about former relationships or other men. Like, that was just like a visceral like rejection. I was like, I am not like feeling this. But there was something still exciting about it, right? And over time, she revealed to me why it was that she didn't want me to look her up, which was that she was in a serious relationship with probably the biggest DJ you could ever imagine, who killed himself. And a bunch of women blamed her because they were in love with this DJ. And what our relationship became was like this like hidden thing that only belonged to each of us, right? And she would send me this like poetry that she had written and had never shown anybody else, and it was like it was like this secret thing that we had going on. But I learned so much about myself and about how like my flaws in the way I navigate relationships through this person, because everything about our relationship together was so polarized and extreme, right? It was so extreme in every way. There were so many layers to her, and there were so many aspects of her that she hadn't even realized as well. But I think I don't know, like when I think about her and when I look at like any photo, I see myself in her, right? And I say that because she also assigns way too much of her identity to the person that was the significant other of this high-profile person. So she's latching on to that way too hard, when she has this like obvious like physical beauty, but like what was really like interesting about her is her persona, like, which doesn't come through. It comes through as like crazy because she's latching it on to things that aren't her. But when she like her persona is latched onto like her inner self, that was by far the best part of her. So these are all things that I learned through that. It didn't necessarily last long. It was like a couple months, but she is like this archetype that I use as a reminder in my life for all those things. It's like, why did you have an unhealthy lens on going into relationships? I learned that through her. Why do I want to make sure that I'm like not assigning my value outwardly? I honestly devote that to her. And then this project that was like the first project that I created that, you know, I said I was going to do it. I got like a Class A supermodel to actually do it with me, and I tapped into that. Like it was such an important like chapter of my life. So I do like, whether like, even though I'm definitely not interested in engaging in a romance with her, and I do have like I like love her in that way. Like she taught me so much.
I think with these kind of relationships, there's always takeaways and learnable moments about what it makes you learn more about what you do want in a relationship with not only yourself but with another person. And so you picked up a lot of all that, and it sounds like she was able to be a bit vulnerable with you and to show her inner person, rather than putting on that show, a facade for other people because of that world she lived in. And also probably, in some ways, escapism, like to escape the life that she was living. And I don't even know who she is, but...
You're spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're spot on.
And you were, I mean, in some ways, you were that medicine. You were that remedy for her to be able to be herself. And that's powerful. I'm sure she was like, whoa, wait a second. I can actually be myself for this person. That's an attraction. And it sounds, as you said, like one of the most important things from that story is her life is her life. And you were like accepting for whatever she is where she is because of all the decisions that she made. And there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. There was so much acceptance, and there's no judgment.
Yeah. Even though it was a couple years ago, 2 years ago, I was lost, right? So I was willing to endure this experience that I found myself in. The fact that she felt safe with me might be as happenstance. Like I do have a good head on my shoulders, but at the time I didn't. Like I really was astray, and I was looking for experience. Yeah. So the fact that she saw that within me is also kind of revelatory as well, because she didn't necessarily have a lot of reasons to believe that. So like kudos to her for that as well.
Women tend to be a little bit more, I don't know, even though they're just their frontal lobes or brains itself, the neurological brain, they just are at a different level of understanding other people more than, like if you talk about like a woman versus a man, a 30-year-old woman versus a 25-year-old man is you know, they typically are younger and not as mature as you are for sure, but I would say, like as you said, like women are generally looking at that age or looking for men that are older because they are more mature, they have different capacity, emotional capacity, maturity. But you're unique in that way where there's not many, I don't know, I would say I would struggle as well to like meet someone at your age, and even the guy upstairs I was talking earlier, very in tune with who he is and going through the process and the journey and realizing what he wants rather than, and there's nothing wrong with being, you know, going out partying and doing all the things, but
Just I've done it.
Yeah, it sounds like you have.
Like I've done it. Like it's easy to agree with you, but I choose not to be honest, because
What don't you agree with?
Stages of life and age, having a correspondence, because that's gonna make me feel fatalistic about finding someone who might be up for the journey right now. Mm-hmm. Like if I was to engage in a relationship, I want to meet a woman who has shit that she wants to do for herself, right? Yeah. And I want to encourage that the same way I'd want her to be an encouragement for mine, right? And that is the stipulation, because if you are looking for the relationship itself right now, like if you're looking for just that other, I can't be that complete picture. Like find meaning in your work, but also we can find meaning in a relationship together. And I think that is important potentially for anybody, but definitely where I am.
No, in fact, I'm right. That's when, circling back to the friends that are around my age and what they're going through is exactly that. I believe that you can still go on your journey and then do the journey with a partner. If you guys are both, for sure, you have to be supportive of one another and encouraging and empowering, and allowing this partner to go on the journey. But you can also do the journey together. So it has to be your separate journeys for 100%, and then your journey can also, while you're working on yourself, you can be with one another. But it has to be the same mindset. They have to show up for you the way that you're showing up for them.
Yeah. This is definitely my most vulnerable place, if you can tell, right? Like when we have conversations about pretty much anything else, it's like I've thought about it so much that I've come to resolutions on it, right? But when it comes to my romantic, my love, like relationships with like a partner that I'm seeking like intimacy with, I would say this is definitely my weakest link. And it's interesting that this is coming out because I was reflecting a lot on how well you've done being vulnerable early on since the beginning of our episodes. But I kept coming at you as like this coach almost. And I heard that in my voice and I was like, that's not fair, right? That's not fair. And so a part of that is, like, it's clear that I didn't intend for this to come out, but this is like what came out. Like, yeah, I think it's, I just don't have a lot of wisdom. I am like looking at it upwardly, right? The whole experience, but that's fun. That's a journey, So that's definitely an avenue that, as I navigate it, I will look to you for insights. I'm curious to what that's going to look like, but I still feel pretty confident in the fact that it's just not necessarily what I need, but I do feel like.
But I do know I want it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
To be in a relationship, for the sake of the relationship is what you just said. That's not in nowhere, and it should not be. And if I would say to you, from whatever stance I am at this moment, friend, co-host, coach, I would disagree with your dad wholeheartedly. I am meaning.
He's giving me the lesson he wants, right?
He is giving the lesson he wants, and I guess I'm giving the lesson I want too for you. But I want to give the lesson for you, not from where. And yes, I could bring in my past experiences and where I'm at in life, but really, when you channel the right person, when you continue to do the work that you're doing, it's like even when the girlfriends that I've met since I've been here, it's like meeting you.
Yeah.
You will eventually attract. She will come. She's orbiting you, and you want the person to be where you're at, if not working towards that journey, and doing that together. That's you said it. Like, you know exactly what you want and who you're looking for, and that's powerful in itself to know that.
It's strange to say, but I almost know what it'll feel like when I see her.
What is that? Going back to my vampire movies, vampire and werewolf. When a werewolf finds his person forever, the word is imprint, and so that's like when they compare it in the movie or the books, it's like the world just stops. It's just like shakes, and it's just like it's just like out of body experience when he imprints on the person that he's meant to be with for the rest of his life. And they kept saying to him, and do we believe there's only one person out there for us? Whatever your belief is, but in the werewolf vampire world, the werewolf believes, and the other werewolves would say, you'll know it when it happens. You just do, especially because you are doing the work and you have been doing the work and you know what you want. That's the most important. If we're thinking about a different picture where, well, I want a husband, I want a dog, I want a cat, I want a house, I want a picket fence, like, then you're already visualizing something that it's not actually really true to your soul. You're choosing things for the wrong reasons. So if you're choosing it for the right reasons, she's orbiting you. She'll come to you, come for you and you will come for her when the time aligns, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that alignment will happen. And along the way, you will meet people, such as this person, and even the person you had that New York City experience with. There's always reasons why you connected when you did, and that this is what I believe, when you had that connection, and what that person was for you in that time.
How exhilarating.
How exhilarating. It's fucking exciting. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, me too.
To meet her. Whatever that.
She doesn't stand a chance.
She's gonna have to be a strong soul, and she's out there. She doesn't stand a chance. I might have to like talk to her on the side and give her some forewarning. I'm just kidding. Here's some guidelines. But it's
Anything you'd like to leave us with here?
No, just open your heart. Not you, like in general, people open their hearts to